Picture this, 12 years old, Darlington, South Carolina, on Brinson Dargan Middle School, actually, playground. And there are my friends coming toward me, Janice and Sarah, and they are mad. See, I was a little 4 feet menace. Yeah, I was a bully. I know it's hard to believe, but I was. And that morning, from the shakedown of getting lunch money from all the students, I didn't give them their cut. So they were headed toward me to kind of beat me up. And I quickly realized I got to get out of this situation. So I saw in the corner of my eye a student who had some Lay's potato chips. Remember Lay's potato chips? They're still my favorite. Well, I knew they were Janice's favorite as well. And I snatched that student's potato chips and gave them to Janice to kind of quarter off on a different topic. She was happy. She was satisfied. I got to keep the money and I got to keep my life at that time at 12 years old. But I really quickly realized that I had the ability to help people get what they wanted. And in doing that, I also realized that being a bully was not the way to go. That I felt like those who I was bullying before. You know, fast forward now to 30 years later, 33 years after being in the military and working with organizations from beginning to end, from cradle to grave, as I call it, building leaders, different personalities and work ethics. I've now honed my skills. I now no longer bully, but I use my skills now to help cultivate leadership acumen and optimize leadership effectiveness for organizations, corporations, universities, and individuals, just leaders that want to be better. I remember a story where I had a junior NCO come to my office. I had just visited a training and told him, come on by and talk to me. And he was the only one that came by. But when he came by, there was also a lieutenant colonel that came by my office that I hadn't seen in a long time. And you know how it is when you haven't seen someone for a long time. But both stood there at the front of my office. And of course, the junior thought that I was going to tell the senior officer to come in, and the senior officer thought I was going to tell the junior officer to hold fast. Well, I did the opposite. I told the junior officer to come in, NCO actually, to come in, and we sat down and we talked about his development and the trajectory he wanted to take in the military. I couldn't even remember the soldier's name at the time, but here recently, about 2 months ago, I had this same soldier who reached out to me on LinkedIn and said, hey, ma'am, you may not remember who I am, but you helped me. You showed me how to lead differently. And by bringing me in and helping me, and today I want to say thank you, but also I want to let you know that's how I now lead my people. He's now over soldiers and civilians that are under his care. And the great thing about it is that he is being promoted from rank to rank because of his leadership acumen. That's important to me. That is why I do the work that I do with LT3 Leadership Solutions. It is because I understand my purpose, and my legacy is to create better leaders for society. That is what I will go to my grave doing. It's 2014, and I am on the beautiful island of Oahu, Hawaii. There, taking my first command position as a brigade commander of the only military unit of its type, the Army Theater Support Group, that had the responsibility of making sure that as we deployed people, that they were administratively and medically correct. So my first day, I'm on the field, the flags are flying. And after I walk off that field, I am in a place of just euphoria about having this opportunity. And a touch of my ego was there as well, I must share. So as I approached to talk to my unit, about 500 people spread out across the Pacific from American Samoa to Saipan, Korea, to Guam, all of these locations. And as I'm talking to them, sharing my vision, the way I think I should share it, well, the reality is the way I shared it was tactless. It was borderline, just downright wrong. And still in my arrogance, I go to my office feeling great about myself. And here comes the IG, the EO, and legal to my office. Again, I'm saying, hey, what are you here for? What solution can I solve for you? Little did I know, when they came into my office, they said, no, ma'am, what problem we can help you solve? Because based on the speech that you gave today and how you interacted the first time with your unit, you got people that have been calling our offices continually today with, I want to move from this unit. Civilians that have been here for a long time, they want to retire. And I'm sitting there saying, what do you mean? Not verbally saying it to them, but in my mind saying, how dare they? I'm the leader in charge. I'm the one in command. Just follow my lead. Do what I tell you to do, how I tell you to do it, and we're going to be successful. Well, I went home expecting that my husband was going to be on my side. So I shared with him, hey, this is what happened. He came back with me saying, check yourself in the mirror. Say, what? Check myself in the mirror. You're supposed to be on my side. But that evening, I went out, sat out on the deck, palm trees are flowing, and I had a nice cold beverage. And you know, if my mom was sitting here, of course it was tea, not anything else. But as I sat out there, I reflected on that day and realized that I was wrong. In my arrogance, I was wrong. And when I came back to the office that day, I typed a letter, an email, if you will, to all 500 of my people, sharing with them that I was wrong and that I will be a better leader. I will work to be a better leader because they deserve a better leader. I learned then that leadership is a choice, it's a privilege, and it is an honor. And that humility, along with empathy, can get you a long way when you're trying to build a team. And that's what I teach when I do Dare to Lead Differently Academy. I teach leaders about being who you are, but being more self-aware of your actions and how they impact your teams. If you want to build a stronger team, be real, be reliable, be encouraging, be approachable, and be loyal to your team. That's what I learned most importantly from that experience, and I carry it with me every day. Let me tell you about my base of rappel tower moment. It was there in 1989 in Fort Jackson, South Carolina, literally standing at the bottom of a 35-foot rappel tower. I had the opportunity to be an executive officer for the basic training unit. I was kind of like one of those things that didn't go with the other, if you remember Sesame Street, because I was the only female officer of about 20 male officers in the brigade. But I was excited. This was my first opportunity to show what I had learned from my officer basic course. And they told me that the leaders that I encountered were going to mentor, coach, teach, and guide me to make me the best leader I could be. So I was excited. But that day, reality set in. My leader came to my training site, and as I was sharing what was going on in the training environment, where we were in the training, how many trainees we had, and then our conversation traversed into longevity in the military. And that's when the bomb dropped. Our conversation went to him telling me that I had no right as a woman to be in this military, that he was going to do everything within his authority to make sure that Tia didn't make it to the next level. So I want you to sit in that for a moment and think about how I felt at that moment. I was in a moment of disbelief, disheartened, and I just couldn't believe, why would my leader that was supposed to lead, coach, mentor, and teach and guide me would say this to me? So I had to learn how to deal with him in that moment. Well, before I left that moment, I looked at him and I told him, "Sir, I will be here when you retire." I turned around, did my salute, exited the area, went back to my office, and I will be transparent. I went to my office and I cried my eyes out. And then my champion, Sergeant First Class Bobby D. Harris, walked in my office and he said to me, "Ma'am, are you going to sit here and cry all day, or are you going to learn some strategy on how to deal with this?" Well, long story short, fast forward, I was there when this lieutenant colonel retired. I shook his hand. I saluted him with the best and sharpest salute I could. But what I remember and learned from that moment was having a P3 mentality of persistence to persist toward my goals, perseverance to endure his inadequate leadership, but still hold close to my values, and then patience with the process, because it didn't happen overnight, but I came out triumphant. So a P3 mentality is what I have used throughout my military career, now as an entrepreneur, and I help my leaders that I get the honor and privilege to train and coach and mentor and guide to do the same. Having a P3 mentality. What would I say to someone 21 years old, or even myself at that time? Well, I would tell them very quickly, do not run up the credit cards that you can't pay for, because that's what I did. But I would also share with them some profound things that I have learned through my 58 years of life and tracking, is that you need to be strategically focused about what it is you want to do, but not to the point where it causes you to not do what you're desiring and destined to do. Then you need to be intentional in the value you want to bring to this world. What is your purpose? What is it that you desire, that you got a burning in the belly that says, this is what I'm here for? Go after that. And lastly, be decisive in your decision making. Don't do knee jerk responses like me doing all the credit cards, like me buying a car I couldn't afford. Make sure that things that you're doing, strategically, intentional, and decisive, are those things that are going to help you be successful and leave your legacy in this world. I remember when I was in ROTC in college, and I graduated from Claflin University, and I wanted to make sure that I graduated with my ROTC class and get commissioned so I could go into the service with my teammates. But to do that required that I had to take a heavy course load. Well, I went and talked to my dean, who had to approve it. And in talking to him, saying that I needed to take 21 hours, he was telling me, look, you could take these 21 hours, but if you're not successful, you're going to risk losing your all expense paid scholarship to this university by not maintaining the GPA you needed. Well, that was important for me because I am a first generational student. So I had a lot of people that were standing behind me, pushing me to be the best that I could and be an example for my nieces and nephews coming behind me. But I looked at him and I said, "Sir, just sign the paper. I can show you better than I can tell you." Well, in that required me to have what I just shared earlier, a SID approach to leadership. I had to be strategically focused. I had to be intentional in the value that I wanted to bring. And I had to be decisive in my decisions of making sure that I reach my goals. Well, fast forward, as a brigadier general, retired, happily retired, now being able to provide knowledge, skills, and abilities to help other young leaders and seasoned leaders understand the capacity that they can bring to this world to make change for our community and our society. I'm glad I was strategically focused, intentionally committed, and decisive in my decision making, because now I get to share those traits and tools and strategies with other people and now see them flourish. And at the end of the day, that is what makes me happy. That what makes joy come. That's what makes me smile. That's my purpose, is to be able to serve others by sharing from my experience, my knowledge, and then growing with them, but also guiding them through the process to reach their goals. So that's what I think I know I would tell my 21-year self and any 21-year-old that happened to be in my space. There's a problem that leaders face today, and it is dealing with conflict. While that is one of the main problems, there are other problems that leaders deal with in self leadership, building and cultivating their own leadership acumen. And then it bleeds into their lack of ability to then develop the next generation. I remember a company here recently that had this issue, a number of young leaders emerging in the company. But what was the disconnect was between the senior leadership and the junior leadership, and how to bind those two together. And that's where we came in, LT3 Leadership Solutions, to develop a course training module for them to help them be able to connect together. And that's what we do with our Dare to Lead Academy, where we offer online courses that are able to help leaders be better leaders for their organizations, thus be better leaders in their homes and better leaders for society. You know, there are many companies like the one that I have just helped. And that's what we're all about, is being able to spread the knowledge and skills and abilities to help leaders be better. We pride ourselves on making sure that we're not doing cookie cutter kind of applications for organizations, but we go in and we look at whether it's executive coaching, whether it is doing interactive training with the organization, or whether it's speaking. With this organization, we have provided them training to learn your leadership DNA. Because for a leader to be self-aware of his or her actions to be a better leader, you got to understand what is your core vision. So we help them by walking them through step-by-step process of what their values are and how their leadership ties into what makes them tick. Why do you lead the way you lead? By the end of the training, each leader walked away with a better understanding of their core vision of why they lead the way they lead, which allowed them to increase their leadership currency. And increasing their leadership currency, that increased their ability to influence the organization for the greater good. That is what it's all about, to dare to lead differently and move forward and be a positive force in our community today. Why companies hire us? Well, they hire us because they can trust us. I am a staunch believer, and it is a core value of mine, that my word is my bond. If my word cannot be trusted, I can't be trusted. We look to make sure that our clients have peace of mind so that they don't have to worry about the training that they've asked us to develop for them. We meet the mark every time. Every client is important to us individually and collectively. I remember an organization that I had in DC that brought me on for some executive coaching because their junior leaders were moving up into senior positions, but they were concerned on whether they had the abilities necessary, the skills, the interpersonal skills to be able to lead complex teams. So when we came in, we sat in with each individual executive, not just doing a broad brush of things for everyone, but we found out exactly what were their concerns and issues and areas that they wanted to work on to be better leaders. And that's what we focused on. At the end of that contract, 30% productivity had increased overall the organization because we could be trusted and we felt proud and continue to feel proud that organizations understand that we're in it with them. We want to see them succeed. We want to see them increase team synergy, enhance employee retention, and be able to continue to command their place in the marketplace. We are the partner that you want on your team because we care. We share, we connect, we educate, and most importantly, we empower leaders to be leaders for your organizations and for our community. Whew, this has been an extraordinary experience. I've grown through this process. I've learned some things about Tia as a leader and walking myself back to my core purpose as why I lead the way I lead and why I launched LT3 Leadership Solutions and the Dare to Lead community. Through this journey, I have just, one word, it's been priceless. And I am blessed to have had this opportunity with such an amazing staff that has supported me from beginning to end, from all my crazy questions to helping me calm down, to even making sure that I look as good as I look today. So I am thankful to the team to helping me share my story with the world, to see Tia behind the veil, and to know that the leader that sits before you is one that is continuously developing so that I can provide sound, practical, implementable solutions for leaders and organizations to be better. That's my purpose in this world. And I'm grateful for this opportunity to have shared it with this team.